This is the briefing from Transport Topics for July 17th. I'm Esmeralda Leon. TT Seth Clevenger and Mike Senatori unpack the trends, surprises, and shakeups that define this year's top 100 for-hire carriers. Catch the latest Road Signs podcast at ttn.ws/episode 171. Now let's dive into the day's top stories. Amazon's carbon emissions rose for the first time in 3 years in 2024, driven by data center construction and fuel consumption by its delivery providers. The world's largest online retailer emitted 68.25 million metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent last year, up 6% from the prior year, Amazon said in its annual sustainability report, which was published July 16. The company's emissions last year were up by a third since Amazon pledged in 2019 to eliminate them by 2040. Sticking with the Seattle area, 3 Washington state logistics operators tied to parent company GSC Logistics recently announced they were ceasing operations and laying off workers in Seattle and Tacoma. McMillan Piper, a transloading company that operates 6 facilities near the ports of Seattle and Tacoma, on July 10th, filed a worker adjustment and retraining notification with the Washington State Employment Security Department. In its letter to the state, the company cited, quote, sudden and unforeseeable business circumstances resulting from the loss of operational funding, end quote. Affected locations included 2 sites in Seattle and 3 in Tacoma, affecting about 92 workers. And finally, it turns out cheap U.S. biofuels may lead to beer and meat shortages in the U.K. How is that possible, you ask? Well, the UK's trade deal with the US removed tariffs on imports of American ethanol, which makes American biofuels cheaper. As a result, 2 UK producers of ethanol, Vivergo Fuels and Ensis plants, are on the verge of shutting down, which could eliminate as much as 80% of the UK's output of carbon dioxide, a co-product of the ethanol fermentation process. Ethanol is mainly used as a biofuel that's blended with gasoline, but Britain's domestic producers are part of a supply chain that reaches far beyond motor vehicles. CO2 has 2 major applications in the meatpacking industry. It is used to stun pigs and chickens at slaughterhouses, and also put in the sealed packaging of high-quality cuts of meat to improve their shelf life at supermarkets. And brewers? The makers of some beers are reliant on CO2 for the bubbles in their products. Couldn't they use the American CO2 instead? Not necessarily. Not all sources of CO2 can meet the high-grade requirements for foodstuffs, possibly leaving Brits in a bind and unable to get brats and brews when they want. That's it for today. Remember, for all the latest trucking and transportation news, go to the experts at ttnews.com.
Spoken Layer.